Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
This is Sunbelt Commissioner Keith Gill, and I listen to the Funbelt Podcast.
This is the Funbelt Podcast, part of the Believe Network.
Hosts the Dusty Thibodeau of Warhawk Report, Jeremy Harper of Powell Razor, and Shane Metlin of the Daily News Record.
I think it's potentially a very good week for the Sunbelt.
But I'm just kind of going off on a random rant. It's just frustrating.
Everybody, welcome back to the Funbelt Podcast. Dusty Thibodeau is with me. Shane Metlin could not make it today, Tibbs. He had a bowling party to go to. Have you ever had a bowling party interrupt your plans?
Not since I was like 12.
I don't think I've ever. Do they still? It sounds like some off of Happy Days.
I would love to go to a bowling party, though. You know why? I like bowling alleys because they always serve beer and they usually have pretzels. So bowling alley is good for me. You can't get that for fishing. So subbing in for Shane Metlin is another real journalist. Tibbs, when we lose a real journalist, we bring in a real journalist. And we got Creg Stephenson, sports editor for AL.com. Creg, welcome back.
Thank you. Been a while.
I know. Tibbs, we need to do a better job inviting people to the show.
I mean, he still has eligibility, so why not?
Yeah, do you have a year?
True.
Anyway, I want to talk a little before we talk about South Alabama, which is going to be a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. Before we talk about some of the football, there are a couple house cleaning items to talk about. It's still football. It's still football related, Tibbs. Right. The first is Georgia Southern made it official. Max Johnson, formerly of LSU, formerly of Texas A&M, formerly of North Carolina, the starting quarterback at Georgia Southern. Was that going to be was that a big mystery? Was that big news?
No. Surprise? No. Well, I mean, I thought he wouldn't have gone there if he wasn't going to be the starter, right? I mean, he's a seventh-year senior. He was a freshman in 2020.
Yeah,
he's on the Devin Boyce and TJ Finley plan.
Well, but I think he would have went anyway because they have beautiful Eagle Creek and knew that he was going to get super immunity powers by taking the plunge there. Yeah. But then also the check was going to clear. And I think that's where we've kind of landed right now in college athletics is if the check clears, yeah, I'll wear the hat and everything.
Yeah, I guess so. Max Johnson, he comes from a NFL family, so I don't know if it's like he's out to grab money necessarily. He just wants to play, I guess, and he wasn't going to play at North Carolina anymore. But yeah, eventually you got to get a job, but it doesn't seem like the court system's in any hurry to make that happen.
Should we be impressed with Clay Hilton's ability to just kind of pluck quarterbacks out of the sky and bring them to Statesboro?
I guess. I don't know. I mean, he seems to have done a pretty good job there. Although the last two they had weren't that great, which is why they had to bring in Max Johnson. I would say the shine that he had from being at USC at one time is probably gone by now, but he's done well enough to hang on, I guess.
Yeah, you got to wonder, Tibbs, is we always talk, not always, but we do talk about the Sun Belt hot seat. And is he a guy that if he doesn't really start showing a potential to win the Sun Belt East, is he a guy that might be in trouble?
I think he could be. I mean, they're some of the fan bases that they're one of the fan bases that have that unrealistic expectation that they should be in the CFP every year in, year out, just like when they were in the 1AA ranks. But that's kind of years gone by. I think that they got to adjust the sights and realize that they're probably on a 3-year cycle where every 3 years, hell, maybe if the check clears big enough that every other year that they can really compete in the East. But, it really feels like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs that you still got to catch up monetarily with James Madison.
Yeah.
Creg, I saw I don't know, it wasn't a meme. It was some post from some random guy on the Twitters.
It was you.
Oh, X now. It wasn't me. But he had identified
age with it. But go ahead.
Yeah, it was a graph showing the most delusional fan bases in each conference, and for some reason, Sunbelt has said nobody. I I could kind of beg to differ on that. I feel like there's plenty of delusional fan bases. Wouldn't Georgia Southern be among the most delusional?
I would say Georgia Southern and App State probably. Just because of their history, because they were in it every year when they were in the FCS AA, and now that's not the case anymore. So, I think that, but that's happened. It's not entirely, not at all their fault. It's just you don't get rewarded for signing and developing anymore.
No.
ULM a couple of years ago had Ahmad Hardy. Arkansas State went and found Jalen Rayner. South Alabama went and found Cliff Bothwell. And where are all those guys now? They ain't in the sun.
No.
It's just the way it is now, unless you've got a ton of money. And James Madison, and I know you guys know this and have talked about it, but they allocate a larger percentage of their student fees to athletics than any school in the country, and that gives them an advantage in the Sun Belt.
Yeah, we should probably follow that model. Hey, Craig, you're kind of close with Troy. You're kind of close with South Alabama. Among those fan bases, who are the most difficult to deal with?
I don't have a problem with any of them. Yeah,
they're great. They're both wonderful.
Troy's gotten to the point where they're pretty good in everything. So, they've gotten to where, for the longest time they were just a football school, but now they're good in baseball. They're good in basketball, both men's and women's basketball. And so they're kind of riding high right now. They're a little smug, but that's okay. They've had success. South Alabama, it's very doomsday oriented. And, for the longest time, of course, they were a small school power in baseball and basketball. And seems like ever since football came around, that's no longer true. And so there's a lot of people that are kind of resentful of that, that maybe we shouldn't have started playing football. But obviously football gets you on TV and it brings in a lot of money. And it's kind of you guys know this. If you don't play football, especially in the South, you just have no profile at all. There are no Gonzagas or Villanovas in the South. Even I know Villanova plays football, but a very low level of football.
Absolutely. Also in the news, Quinn Heinkel named the ODU starter. I think there was no surprise to that. Not a surprise. If Shane were here, I would have loved to have quizzed him on this because he seemed pretty confident that it was going to happen for JMU, but it didn't. Trent Henrick, the former Sun Belt Defensive Player of the Year, is elected to follow Bob Chesney to UCLA instead of Billy Napier at James Madison. Craig, what do you read from that?
Right. Is that anything more than that? And I'm going to go play in the Big Ten and be on, national TV every week, that sort of thing. I think that's what it is.
More.
Obviously, there's a relationship with Chesney and his staff too. I think that's all that it is. I'm not surprised by any of it. And I do think too, I guess James Madison would have found a spot for him, but a lot of these, a lot of the Sun Belt schools, they're maxed out already. You can't have guys come in the middle of August and necessarily give them what they're looking for. Not that they wouldn't play, but I'm just saying the financial part of it as well.
Tibbs, are we going to see any of these 5-for-5 guys come to the Sun Belt?
Hell, I don't know. As of today, they're not eligible. And
right.
The NCAA may won one of the court cases.
Trey Taylor, who was at Coastal Carolina and then was at Troy last year, showed up at Auburn, and the court case got overturned and they took him off the roster. So he's kind of in limbo right now. I don't know. There are some, the ones that have their own individual lawsuits or are part of a group lawsuit, like the offensive lineman at Texas, and there's a couple of others, the defensive lineman at Missouri. They're okay, but the ones that were just, hey, that Colorado court case got passed or ruling came through and now I'm eligible again, those guys are kind of the ones that are out of luck. We've seen a lot of those in basketball too, including Chase Harris, the Sun Belt Player of the Year at South Alabama last year. He wasn't going to come back to South Alabama, but he was going to go in the portal and try to latch on somewhere, but now it looks like he's not going to have that opportunity.
So let's talk a little then. Let's switch now and talk a little bit about the Sun Belt West for a bit.
Okay.
Craig, before we start talking, or before we pressed record on this podcast, you had implied, not
Right.
maybe said overtly, but implied that you
Mm-hmm.
don't know how the Sun Belt's going to shape up at all. Is that an accurate implication?
I said, don't ask. No. I said, don't ask me about the East, which you just spent the last 10 minutes doing. But
That's right. I destroyed you. You sounded
Anyway.
knowledgeable.
no, the West, I'm a little bit more savvy on, I would say.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the West. How you like it shaking up? Just a 30,000-foot view from Craig
Yeah.
Stephenson.
I kind of Troy, I think, is going to have an opportunity. They lost a lot, but they do have a returning starter at quarterback, which helps, although he's had trouble staying healthy. They do have some pieces on the offensive line. Seems like they've done a pretty good job in the portal of getting some fellow G6 and or FCS, upper level players from those. The other thing I'm really interested with them is they made the change at offensive coordinator and brought in Adam Austin from Tarleton State, which was the highest scoring team in the FCS last year. So they may have upgraded there. I think they certainly have. I think it's Adam. I want to call him Austin Adams, but I think it's Adam Austin. Anyway, so I like what they've got. I think that, just based on what they did last year, they made a little bit of a leap, and seems like that's kind of proof of concept for Jared Parker. Louisiana, kind of for the same reasons. I really like Lunch Winfield.
We do too, yeah.
Yeah. I think Arkansas State's well coached. I do think Butch Jones is one of the better coaches in the league, and they've done a pretty good job of recruiting. But, when you lose a 3-year starter at quarterback, that's kind of difficult to replace. After that, I'm interested to see what Louisiana Tech is in this league. I do think they probably are coming in at a good time for them. They're coming off a good year, and they have a lot of guys back. Whereas 2 years ago, like Sonny Cumbie was kind of coaching for his job. He's saved himself.
So where does South Alabama come in on that?
I mean, not very high. I don't.
Well, where is your trepidation? I mean, they do have the returning quarterback.
I do think they're going to be okay. They're going to be okay on offense. I do think Bishop Davenport's going to be better. They got pieces at running back and receiver, offensive line. They brought back 2 starters, which is not bad for this league. And they brought in some guys, again, FCS guys that were starters at that level. You would think at least should be able to, perform to a certain degree. But defensively, they lost everybody. I mean, they had 3 starters coming back, but 2 of them are probably out at least half the year with injuries, either in the late last season or in the spring. And they've just gotten pilloried through the portal 2 years in a row. I think they've lost 13 starters off of the defense in the portal the last 2 years, combined. They just don't have anybody that has played a whole lot at this level. Blaine Myrick, who is a Mobile guy that they brought in and developed and turned into one of the best linebackers in the league, went to Miami of Ohio, which sounds like a lateral move until you realize that Miami of Ohio has a billionaire booster, and I heard paid him $400,000 to go to Miami of Ohio. So, a couple of guys left South Alabama, go to the Florida International, which again seems lateral, but I guess they're cashing those pit bull checks down there, and there was one of their starting offensive linemen last year wound up going to a Big 12 school, and they offered him whatever they offered him. And he said, I'd like to give South Alabama a chance to match that. And he came back to South Alabama, and they did. And then the school turned around and doubled it and gave him a $50,000 signing bonus. Yeah, I mean, you can't compete with that. You can't compete with that. And on defense, they've just lost everybody. They brought in Todd Orlando, who we know has a pretty, kind of an up and down history, I would say, but he has been the defensive coordinator at places like USC and Texas. So you would think he's got some credentials. I do think they will be better coached on defense, but I just don't know that there's a ton to work with there. So long way of answering, they're going to be very hard pressed to win more than 4 or 5 games. If they get into a bowl game this year, I think that would be a huge success.
So when we were talking to Major Applewhite, I almost call him Major Appleby, Tibbs.
Applebee's. I mean, what is this, Hattiesburg hour?
It's certainly his amateur hour when I'm involved.
They don't have we don't have an Applebee's in Mobile.
What?
How about that? Yeah, no,
That's nuts.
It closed. Anyway, go ahead.
So when Tibbs and I talked to Major Applewhite at Sunbelt Media Days, it was at the end of Sunbelt Media Days.
Yeah,
he seemed a little tired. He seemed a little, perturbed. Even when he got on stage, he was sort of riffing a little bit. And then when he came and sat with us, Tibbs can probably describe it a little bit better because I was trying to wrap my head around it. But you could tell he was really aggravated with the state of college football. He was talking about last season when several of his key players left during the springtime, which he thought was just absurd. He talked about, how, football should be. I think he was trying to imply that maybe South Alabama, the college, the university should be supporting it more because football is the gateway to the university. I know he had a lot of things to say. Tibbs, what am I missing there?
No, I think you're absolutely right. He is. He definitely is in the. I'm throwing my hands up at the state of things situation right now. And of course, there's a high level player. Obviously at Texas, Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year as a player, and just you just. Some of those are institutional issues. I don't disagree with that. And cultural issues, I would say, in Mobile, for whatever reason, there are multiple reasons. One is everybody, they've only had football for 15 years. So everybody that's over 30, basically, that is a South Alabama person grew up with them not having football, which means they gravitated to Alabama or Auburn or LSU or Florida State or whatever. LSU is like 2.5 hours from here. Florida State's like 4. That kind of stuff. There's a lot of those fans here. So that's an issue you have. Mobile as a city. A lot of the people that you would, the university is way out in the west part of town, and a lot of the people you would want to come to the games are on the Eastern Shore, and it's difficult for them to get over here. And Mobile has a long history of failed professional franchises, minor league baseball, and so on, that they just did not support. And for what it seems like, people in Mobile will show up for Mardi Gras, but that's about it. South Alabama will fill up that stadium for Troy and for the Senior Bowl and for Southern Miss, if Southern Miss is good, but that's because half the crowd is Southern Miss fans driving an hour and a half to get here. So that's part of the issue. And again, there's just not a whole lot of booster money in Mobile because the big money people in Mobile are giving their money to Alabama. Two of Alabama's largest boosters, Elliot Maisel, who's the brother of Ivan Maisel, who owns the beer and soft drink distributorship, and then Angus Cooper, who owns several industrial concerns. They're both, multi-million-dollar Alabama donors, and they're not going to give to South Alabama. That's just kind of the way it is. So you're fighting that battle, and then again, you're fighting the battle to where you go out and sign and develop, and then those guys are leaving after 1 or 2 years. I mean, they brought in the cornerback last year from Georgia Tech, Nehemiah Chan, and he was one of the best players in the Sun Belt. The flight to Texas State, and then immediately after the game was over, announced he was going in the transfer portal, and wound up at Florida State on the day the portal opened, and probably going to be a starter there. You just don't, you're beating your head against the wall, man. I mean, you just cannot retain anybody, but because you just don't have the financial wherewithal to do it. It sucks. It really does.
And Craig's connection keeps cutting out because I think the South Alabama people just don't want to hear it.
Yeah, sorry. Did you get any of that?
Yeah, we got most of that. Dusty,
Yeah.
what else did he say that kind of grabbed onto you?
Arch Manning's going to win the Heisman. It was almost a guarantee.
Yeah.
But no, he really
Major, not me.
Yeah, Major did.
Well, he's a Texas guy, so you gotta take that with a grain of salt.
And a Texas quarterback at that. I think that he was just very frustrated with the state of the game, and it was really the first time that we actually heard a head coach kind of go off and say the things that we've all said and probably needed to have been said. I wish it would gain some more traction to kind of show where we are in the state of the game, but I think that it would honestly push for that separation of kind of the P4 versus everyone else. Maybe that's what we need, and that's how it fixes it. Yeah, or the Premier League versus everyone else.
Right, and I know the people, the G6 people, especially the ones that moved up from FCS, like Troy and App and Georgia Southern, they don't want to go back down, so to speak. They've fought for decades to get to where they are now, and even ULM was at one time, obviously. Were they? Yeah, ULM was
one AA until made the move in '94.
Yeah, so it's been a while, but I knew they were at one time. Louisiana never technically was, I don't think. But anyway, so yeah, I can understand not wanting to go back down, but it's gonna your national profile is just gonna evaporate if that happens. But if you want to compete, it may be worth looking into.
So one of the things I've noticed is that, you get the quarterback from Marshall, Del Rio Wilson.
Yeah.
There's
another name in there.
Yeah, that's Carlos Del Rio Wilson. Yeah, there's 4 names in there. I always get the order messed up. But he's the guy who's named the preseason offensive player of the year, and for good reason. He has good stats, so he's a good player. I think
he's back too because all the other ones left.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that too. But Davenport to me was kind of a guy that's almost the same kind of profile and makeup, and his stats aren't too far away from that. And nobody's really talking about Davenport. What's your thoughts on Davenport? Yeah. Is Bishop going to be? Like, he didn't quite be the guy last year. Like there seemed like because of all the close losses, he doesn't get those accolades. But what's your measure of him?
Smart guy. Knows the offense, seems a little tentative sometimes to really cut it loose with the throws. He runs pretty well. I think he was let down a little bit by the play calling last year. There was some real disconnect between Major and Paul Petrino, who's now gone, who was initially the play caller. And there were a couple times Major took it over in the middle of games. And then I think for about the last 3 or 4 games took it over entirely. But Major's still a pretty conservative guy. I think a lot of people think that, he's a former Big 12 quarterback, so he's the guy that wants to throw it 60 times a game. He's not that. He's very conservative, and I just don't think they took enough chances down the field last year offensively. He has become his own offensive coordinator in addition to his own quarterbacks coach this year. So it's going to be on him. I think Davenport has the skill set. He's not quite as talented a thrower as Jared Hollins, the backup. But having watched both scrimmages this fall, Davenport is by far the more prepared.
Sure, knows the playbook, right?
What? Yeah.
He knows the playbook. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Hollins is going into his 3rd year, so he knows the offense too, I think. It's just that Davenport has looked better when I've seen him. So I don't think he has the ceiling of a guy like a Jalen Rayner, but I do think that, or Lunch Winfield for that matter, but I do think he's a guy that you can win with if they will give him the right tools, if that makes sense.
You've mentioned Lunch a couple times, and you said you really like him.
I do.
I like him. We met him at Sunbelt Media Day. He seemed like a great guy. What about him that's sticking out to you?
He's just tough, man. I mean, he's strong. He's tough.
Yeah.
Takes chances. I mean, he just seems like a winning player, if that makes sense to me. That's what I see in him. And like I said, he can make plays with his legs. And yeah, I think we all.
Hey, this is Steve Gorman, radio host, sports commentator, and former drummer for the Black Crowes. Let's talk about something that affects us all: drinking and driving. Summer's drawing to a close, and football season is kicking into gear. We just can't wait for those tailgates, cookouts, and get-togethers with friends to enjoy the game and throw back a few cold ones. Let me suggest a few more items for your plans. Always plan for a safe ride home. Just like in sports and music, I always have a game plan, and the most important part of any plan is sticking to it. If you plan to drink, take that plan a step further. Call a ride share, a taxi, a sober friend, or a designated sober driver. Drinking and driving is a decision that will change your whole world. Get a DUI? Crash your car, injure yourself or others. The consequences are immediate and everlasting. Please be safe for your sake and everyone on the road, and get a sober ride home. Drive sober or get pulled over. Paid for by NHTSA.
Thought that, Walker Howard, former 5-star LSU sign, he's going to come in there and rewrite the Sun Belt record book. And, he got hurt, obviously, but then Lunch Winfield kind of took it over and wouldn't give it back. So I do like that guy. I actually picked him in the Sun Belt poll that Dima Mixon did. I actually picked him as my player of the year. I did.
Well, but very well could be.
Yeah.
If we could talk about Troy for just a second, too.
Yeah.
You had mentioned new offensive coordinator at Troy.
Yeah.
Offense just was not good last year. I think they finished 120th or something crazy in total offense last year. They pulled it together at the right time last year, won the Sun Belt West, and that was good for them. What do you think was the disconnect in Troy when it came to their offensive powers?
Well, Crowder missing half the season was a big part of that. And the offensive line got I think they lost 3 starting offensive linemen in one game, and they ended up giving up 63 sacks, which led the country. That was the biggest part of it. They did have some good skill players. Now, a lot of those guys are gone, although one guy I would really keep an eye on for them is Gavin Griffin, who's a junior college transfer, running back from East Mississippi. I think he's going to be a real playmaker. They brought in, as I mentioned, a couple of offensive linemen out of the portal. Jordan Jones, who was an all-MAC lineman at Ohio, and then Darian Rivers, who I think was at NC State, going to be their left tackle. So I do think they've got some good pieces there. And again, the Adam Austin offensive profile, I think it's gonna be fun to watch again. But it all depends on can Goose Crowder stay healthy, and he has had some serious injuries, some concussions and shoulders and that kind of stuff. And if he can make it through 12 games, then I think they got a chance to be pretty good offensively.
Now, one team that you did neglect to mention, Creg, and I hate to put you on this kind of spot here, especially with Tibbs here, but you did mention ULM. You did mention their chances of winning the Sun Belt.
I didn't. I was going to defer to Dusty on that. What do you think?
Hell if I know. I mean,
yeah. I mean, they were just, Vincent got up to such a hot start, and we thought, okay, they got it together now. And then obviously they lost Hardy. I mean, that was huge. And they had all kind of injury issues, and they got to the point where they couldn't even kick an extra point last year. So it was hard to figure, but just, I don't know. I just, what I saw last year did make me a big believer, unfortunately. And I like Vincent personally, but, he was the offensive coordinator at South Alabama back in the old days and didn't really like the world up here either. But
I like Vince. Go ahead, Tibbs.
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah, I don't think anybody really knows because year one, he way overachieved. Yeah. There's no way that was a 5-win team.
Yeah.
Last year probably was one game short of where everyone really thought he was. but because it was such a injury plagued, it was almost a wash of a season. That now you enter year 3, and it's like, I don't know what to think. Is this the makeup from last year? Since now we're healthy and it's only a 4 or 5 win team, knowing that it's building momentum and going the right way, are there enough pieces that they overachieve again and hit 6-7 wins?
What do you think of the AD?
SJ Tui?
Yeah,
Good, young.
He's got energy. That helps.
It's the first time in a while that we've had a true outsider come in, and the administration on both sides of the bayou, the athletic and the academic side, are going in the same direction. It doesn't feel like it's a academics has to take priority or athletics. I feel like it's finally a ULM takes priority. And it's something we've never seen before. It almost feels like deja vu. And I always jokingly say, yeah, the Saints won a Super Bowl, and I keep waiting on the NCAA to come back and take it from them. Yes, I know what I said. I feel like it's the same way that this isn't something I've ever seen before of ULM, and don't know how to act.
Yeah, South Alabama, I neglected to mention this. They do have a new AD. Joel Erdman retired. Daniel McCarthy, who was his lieutenant and kind of groomed to be his replacement, is the guy now. And but I think he's going to be different. He's going to be a little different. And, there were a lot of people that thought, I love Joel a lot. I love him as a person. But I think things got a little stale toward the end. Had some people tell me that, not necessarily Joel, but kind of athletic department wide, that some people kind of were not satisfied, but accepted mediocrity to a degree. And I think Daniel's going to be a little bit more proactive about things, and not just in football, but they've got some other programs they need to get straightened out. But men's basketball, on the other hand, is pretty good. If this was a basketball podcast, I'd be touting them to potentially win the league, because I do think they're going to be good. But football, baseball, some of the other sports really have got some holes to dig their way out of. And, part of that's financial, but part of it is inertia, and they need to kind of be a little more, push it back in the other direction. So,
this is something that we've talked about a little amongst ourselves, me and Tibbs and Shane, a little bit. And I want to throw it over to you, Craig. You talked a little bit about South Alabama, how football has become like a, not an albatross, but it's something that you have to focus on. You have to put money into. But in reality, in college sports, where the group of 5 can really, find a footing, is a little bit in basketball, a lot in baseball. Do you see a South Alabama or Troy sort of funneling money in those directions, or do you see them sort of just sticking with football?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Troy's interesting, obviously, because of what they did last year, the College World Series. And I think they also kind of they were fortunate in the offseason that there weren't a lot of high-profile jobs that opened up to where Skylar Meade might be picked off, because South Carolina opened, but they hired the Coastal guy, and then Coastal hired a coach that was out of work, and that was the coaching carousel. If there were 4 SEC, ACC, Big 12 jobs open, Skylar Meade probably would have gotten one of them, and so they were, and because he stayed, their top players stayed. Can they sustain it if Meade moves on a year from now is what we need to, I guess we need to find out. But I do think that obviously they're going to get a huge surge from making it to the College World Series last year. I joked with a friend, I'm from Mississippi originally. I joked with a friend of mine the day that both Troy and Ole Miss made the College World Series, and Southern Miss lost was like the worst day in the history of Southern Miss athletics, because it was like a program they hate and a program that they've always, I thought they were better than, at least in baseball, but made the World Series. But so I don't know. Basketball, they still have not been able to get over that hump to where they're more than one bid league.
I was going to ask, do you think that the Sun Belt ever becomes a two-bid league?
I mean, now that they've expanded the tournament, maybe, but those extra 12 spots are probably just going to be 3 Big 10, 3 Big 12, 3 Big East, and 3, you'll get Auburn in there and not the regular season Sun Belt champ if they didn't win the tournament, That's what I think about it. But I don't know. Baseball does seem like the place they've been able to make their mark recently. Softball to a degree in years past, and then in some of the other sports they've done okay. South Alabama actually has pretty good soccer and volleyball programs, but they're in the fall, so nobody really notices.
It's Dusty. Just speaking of baseball and Sun Belt West, what's going on in the outfield at Cajun World?
I don't know.
The roof is on fire.
You light it on fire? Was that you?
Whoa.
No, I missed this. What happened?
Apparently, they were doing some renovations out in left field. The scoreboard had an arc, a spark, and then went up in flames.
Wow. That's serious. Hey, I'll tell you this. In I think it was July the 2nd, lightning hit our house. We had a bad lightning storm. Lightning hit our house. The big TV in the living room, the garage door, the ice maker, and the air conditioner all went out all at once.
Nice.
And we got the garage door fixed Friday. That was the last thing. We're finally back to normal after like a month and a half. But
man, one bolt of lightning.
One bolt of lightning.
Very, very frightening.
Yeah. Craig, I also want to get your opinion now that I know that reality is set in. Does losing Texas State hurt the Sun Belt, or is it just sort of a non-issue?
I don't think it's a big deal. It seems like every time a Big 12 job is threatening to come open, people mention G.J. Kinney, and then I think the guy went 7-5 every year at Texas State.
No.
Why is he such a hot property? And I know his offense is fun, but they don't play a lick of defense. I mean, so I guess if that's what you want at Baylor or, and I guess you could argue, well, if he had more resources, I don't know. I mean, I guess. No, I don't think it hurts that much. I was, and Dusty maybe can speak this a little bit better. The Louisiana Tech edition was a little peculiar to me, and I know why they did it because it's the easiest travel for half the league, but would have made a whole lot better for the Sun Belt's profile to go out and get Western Kentucky back, or even if they could get East Carolina or somebody like that.
I would sell my soul to get East Carolina in the league, but that leaves an imbalance of the league.
Right.
I think the way that Western Kentucky and Middle Tennessee left the league before, I think that left a lot of people with bad memories. That as much as I would love to just add Big Red, screw Western Kentucky. I want just Big Red in.
Yes, I have heard the stories about Western Kentucky in particular. Supposedly, when they left the league, the last year they were in the league, they won the Vic Bubas Cup as the Sun Belt All Sports champion, and they threw the trophy in the trash when they left.
My God! I had not heard that one.
Story. But La Tech had some. La Tech was like, "There's no way in hell we're ever going to be in a conference with ULM," and they've made that work. So I think
how the desperate times have changed them.
But you're right. There are certain, East Carolina would probably never. They're the Americans. They would never deign to join the Sun Belt. Just like I don't think UAB ever would, even though it would make a lot of sense for them. They would never stoop to be in the Sun Belt now that they're in the American. But it would make a lot more sense for a lot of reasons. Like I said, I would love to have Jacksonville State in the league, but it didn't happen.
The only team I don't want in the league is Missouri State, and that's because I get a lot of people in Jonesboro just jonesing for Missouri State, and I'm like,
Who's Arkansas State's biggest rival? That's what I wonder.
That's a problem. That is a huge problem for us. We don't have
Missouri State certainly would be.
It would, but I just don't like Missouri State. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel
Yeah.
the same way about Liberty. I don't want any part of Liberty
Yeah.
in the Sun Belt. You know,
Like, I hate Liberty so much. I wouldn't mind Liberty being in the Sun Belt because then at least I can play them. But one thing, like Texas State, I was really trying to push to become the big rival with Arkansas State. I tried.
because they were the one that didn't have one. Yeah,
and it just never worked out.
Neither one had an in-state team. Yeah, it seemed. I guess I can understand why they did it. You know, for money and TV, but geographically, it makes no sense for them. And they were kind of an outlier anyway. You know, they need to be in a conference with UTSA and Rice and people like that, which isn't going to happen. But the Pac-12, where you're playing Boise State and Fresno State, and playing games 2 time zones away, I mean, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
No, it does not. So, Craig, are you I don't know, connoisseur is not the right word. An appreciator of sports beyond football, basketball, and baseball. I'm talking about volleyball. I'm talking about soccer. Who do you like this year in let's just say volleyball for the Sun Belt West?
You didn't let me answer the question. No, I'm not. I'm not an appreciator.
Craig, I used to be on a show in Arkansas. Yeah. They would have me on they would have me come on and talk about the Red Wolves. And they used to pepper me with women's basketball. And at the time, I just never paid attention. And I felt terrible about that. I felt so terrible. I ended up like learning more about women's basketball and then appreciating.
Women's basketball, they made that run in the tournament last year where they won like 4 games in 4 days or whatever. That was kind of cool. South did. I'll pay attention to them if they make the playoffs, the NCAA playoffs or whatever, the tournament, as it were. But no, I'm usually just football, baseball, basketball, and softball to a degree because they've been pretty good. But
it's because you just don't have the bandwidth.
I couldn't tell you anything about soccer or volleyball. And again, part of it is because it's during the fall.
Yeah.
And it's football's going on. It's just I just don't have enough bandwidth to keep up.
How about you, Tibbs? Are you like a big volleyball person? Do you follow the volleyball?
I try to, but it's a little painful on the Bayou. Not many conference wins, but truth be told, right now I'm watching the Warhawks face off against Jackson State
in soccer.
Little swagtastic action here on a Sunday afternoon. So yeah, I definitely keep up with women's soccer probably a little bit more than any of the others.
Yeah, I have been in recent years been interested in the soccer. I've actually watched a couple games, and I've been surprisingly fun to watch. Arkansas State not very good this year. Craig, you need to get into the soccer world.
Yeah, South Alabama's pretty good too.
Yeah.
They have slipped a little bit since I think ODU and some of those pretty good programs on the other side came in, but they usually are a threat to make the tournament. And every once in a while, every couple of years, they'll slip up and beat Florida State or LSU or somebody like that. And so it's a big deal. Volleyball was awful for probably a decade, and they've gotten pretty decent the last few years.
All right.
South Alabama in the spring. The tennis is okay. The golf has a pretty good history, but hasn't been good recently. Track and field, they're not bad. They had an Olympian a couple of years ago. I don't know what I'm forgetting, but I don't know, rowing. They have rowing. I don't like rowing.
Do we have a rowing program? I tell you what,
there's Sunbelt men's soccer, and it's got Kentucky, West Virginia, and South Carolina in it, which is crazy.
It's kind of nuts. It's a little bit like bowling. Tibbs had a good suggestion to Commissioner Gill when we spoke to him. He said, "What about flag football? Tibbs, can we get flag football in the Sun Belt? Is that something that could happen?"
I would love to have it, and it's a spring sport, so it doesn't compete with the gridiron.
Yeah, it's gotten big in Alabama. Mississippi just started it, I think, maybe 2 years ago. They're a lot of the schools down here on the coast are affiliated with the Saints program. The Saints have a flag football program that they kind of are the, I guess, give some money, So yeah, I'd love to see that. That would be really cool, I think.
Is that co-ed or is it all boys, all girls?
It's
all girls. Okay.
Yeah,
the NCAA sponsored is all girls, all women's.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. At high school, on the high school level, it's all girls. Now there is park ball where it's either or, but they don't have high school boys flag football. No.
Yeah, I wonder what the cost is. I remember I did a personal research analysis of adding beach volleyball. I know, does South Alabama have beach volleyball?
No.
Okay. But
even though the beach volleyball Sunbelt tournament's in Gulf Shores, South does not have a team.
It would seem like South Alabama would jump on that. It was surprisingly expensive, though. I can't remember the numbers, but I guess any sports program, whether it's tennis or football or basketball or whatever it's going to be, it's going to have some cost.
The travel has got to be the biggest part of it, because there's obviously in beach volleyball or flag football, there's not a whole lot of uniform requirement. And I know there is there's a medical liability insurance. That's the biggest thing with football. That's why football is so expensive. One, because you have so many players and so much equipment, but the insurance is just insane. That's why it costs so much with football. Anyway.
Tibbs, are we ready for parting shots, plugs, and promos?
Sounds like a great idea.
Already taken enough shots. Who have I got to take a shot at? You guys go ahead. I'll listen.
Oh, okay. We'll let you. Yeah, you see how it goes. We're not taking shots at. Well, Tibbs might take a shot at somebody.
Okay.
Tibbs, I'm going to go first because I never go first.
Okay.
I'm gonna do a promo, not of myself, but of a movie I saw. I ended up, the wife and I checked out The End of Oak Street, which I don't know if you guys have heard about. This stars Anne Hathaway.
Oh, okay. Is it a horror movie? It sounds like a horror movie.
I mean it's an adventure movie. It has a bizarre and outrageous premise. A neighborhood gets sucked back into the prehistoric days, right? So there's dinosaurs all over the place and they're eating people left and right. I guess you could call it horror. To me, it's more of adventure, but really harken back to some of the early Spielberg work of, just a family with a lot of problems inside the family, getting thrust into a situation that they have to kind of figure it out. And along the way, they realize how much they love each other. So it was a very well done movie. I don't know if any of you seen the horror movie It Follows, which is one of my favorite horror movies.
I have seen
directed by that guy. Does a great job of recreating the 1980s. I know all three of us have lived in 1983, and that's the year this movie was set in. When you look at this movie, it feels 1983 from the sounds that the cars makes to all the chain link.
End of Oak Street?
The End of Oak Street. Check it out. If anything, for the 80s nostalgia, because it just feels like, you stepped back into your early childhood, and it's pretty awesome. Tibbs, what do you got?
That's my wheelhouse. All right.
I just want to plug DNR Online, powered by Warhawk Report, for all your latest information on the Warhawks, James Madison, and everything in between. The writings of the late, great Sean Metlin. And that's my parting shot.
That's it? You're plugging Shane Metlin, who's not even here?
No, I called him Sean Metlin.
Yeah, I heard that. I wanted to run past that. All right, that's pretty good. Craig, I'm sorry, I don't feel like we gave you great examples. So you're just going to have to wing it.
I'm thinking.
Think.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't really done anything recently that was any good.
Terrible. Poor Craig hasn't done anything that was any good recently.
I haven't done anything that was any good ever since I went to SEC Media Days, and since I came back, I haven't left the house hardly at all.
Because it wore you out.
It did. Yeah, being in that hotel air for 4 days in a row. But
all right, let me ask you this. I'll help you out. So you went to SEC Media Days.
I did.
You went to Sunbelt Media Days.
I did.
What's the primary difference?
Volume. SEC, there's 400 members of the media, and ESPN, broadcasting live, and 12, 15, 25 radio shows going full blast and all that sort of thing. In Tampa, unlike when it was in Birmingham where you had fans that would show up, you don't get that in the off-site places that much. No, you get a few, but not many. When it used to be in Birmingham and Saban was in the league, I mean, there would be hundreds of Alabama fans in the lobby on the day Alabama was there. But yeah, it's all, I think all of it, even the regular season and certainly the college football playoff has become a TV show, to a degree. And that's really, everything caters to TV anymore. So
let me ask you this, Greg.
Yeah.
I felt like we used to get better tchotchkes at Sunbelt Media Days. Like we get maybe like a travel mug.
What did we get? I didn't show up till the second day this week because I had to come in I had something going on out in Birmingham the day before. What was the gift this year?
We didn't get
a hug from Sam.
we didn't get anything.
Last year we got the little Sunbelt mini helmet, which I got.
Yeah, that was okay. So do you get any tchotchkes at the SEC?
I don't think so.
What? You got to bribe the press in some way, don't you?
I don't remember getting anything. At bowl games, I'll say this. I still have, and this is, I still use a shaving kit that I got at the 2006 Independence Bowl. I still use it.
They gave you a shaving
Independence Bowl. And I had a suitcase that I got from the BCS National Championship game when it was at the Rose Bowl one year in Alabama and Texas. I had a suitcase that I still use, but the zipper finally broke on it, so I can't use it anymore. But I still use that shaving kit. I still have it. I've got it. And I've got a ton of different – I got like 50 just sitting here at my desk. I got like 100 jump drives with bowl and logos on them and all that kind of stuff. But
well, we need to send a copy of this recording to Commissioner Gill because I am tired of not receiving premium tchotchkes, Tibbs. I want the stuff.
And in honor of Hudspeth,
speaking of Keith
it'll
Gill,
be a medium shirt.
Yeah,
I'll take a medium shirt. Yeah. I'll wear that with pride.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.